First, and it has been a pretty eventful couple of weeks since we last gathered. We had, of course, our Memorial Day weekend, and downtown and the County of San Luis Obispo moved farther along into stage 2, which is good news for your businesses because that means that retail, restaurants, and hair salons and barbers are now open. So I'm really interested to hear from all of you about how that's been going, and we'll hear specifically from a couple of our board members about what their reality has looked like over the last couple of weeks. So just a welcome to everybody. A reminder, my name is Bettina Swigger. I am the CEO of Downtown SLO, and co-leading the call today is Rachel Maiorino, our Chief Operating Officer. I am reporting to you from our Downtown SLO office at 1135 Choro. We will begin working from the office at periodic times. So we don't have a calendar for regular hours yet, but if you want to stop by and say hello, just send us an email or a text and we can arrange a time to meet. We are able to practice physical distancing in our office space, so that's a good thing. We do have a new Zoom link today, so hopefully we didn't lose too many of you, but we're happy to see those of you who are able to join. And thank you, Rachel, for working with me on this call today. Thank you all to our board of directors. Our board of directors meets weekly in this call, and then we also have monthly closed sessions to discuss our organizational operations. And so our next closed session will be on next Tuesday, which is June, I'm going to get the date correct here, June 9th at 7:30 in the morning. So I'll look forward to seeing you all, and I'll be sending you all the board packet for that meeting at the end of this week. Thank you for all of your leadership as we have been weathering these strange times. Rachel?
Thanks, Bettina. As of today, we are at 270 positive cases, with 245 of them recovered, keeping pretty steady. We're still holding at 1 death in our county, which is really good news. Hospital numbers have been steady as well. Moving into the guidelines for business operations from the state regarding face coverings, we continue to see our businesses rolling out that as a condition to entering businesses. As well as going through the self-certification. As Bettina mentioned, we now have dine-in as an option, retail, and then salons and barbershops as kind of the newest addition to those as we move further into stage 2. And as we know, recovery is going to be gradual and in stages, and we thank you for, as we move along, we're trying as best as we can to get that information out to you, as well as working with the county and the state to get that information through, and then, highlighting it through these weekly calls. Bettina, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Great, thanks, Rachel. So as Rachel said, we are still in stage 2 and we have not yet moved into stage 3. We continue to watch Governor Newsom's daily updates, although I will be in full disclosure, I did not watch over the weekend. I took the weekend off and went outside. But we probably are guessing that we will not be moving into stage 3 anytime soon, simply because there has been an added element of large gatherings taking place because of the peaceful protests that happen around the state, but also some not so peaceful protests that have been happening in large cities. So we were really fortunate to have a very peaceful protest in San Luis Obispo downtown yesterday at Mitchell Park, and then proceeding through the downtown. The protesters were wearing masks and for the most part practicing social distancing. The police were very supportive and there were no incidents. I know many of the business owners were supportive of the message of the protesters, and we're all trying to move toward a more equitable society. But this is just another complication in a very complicated reality that we're dealing with. So we still continue to operate in stage 2, and we invite you to become familiar with the California Resilience Roadmap website. And visit that as much as possible so that you can understand how things are changing, because that's where we find out about it as well. At this time, we'd like to call on some of our partners. So Judy Mahan from the SBDC. Are you out there, Judy?
Yes, good morning. Good morning, Bettina. Good morning, everyone. Great to be on the call. Thank you for inviting me. Not too many updates for you today. We do know that the EIDL portal for loan applications is still open for ag businesses, which I know doesn't concern too many of the membership here. But if anyone in their network is aware of someone who could benefit from that, the EIDL loan program is still available and still up and running. So is PPP. The funds have not completely expired as of yet. So both of those loan options, disaster loan options, are available for SLO County businesses. I'm going to post right now in the chat the forgiveness guidelines that came out about 10 days ago. They came out just a few days before our call last week. Some of the highlights from that we've learned and that we're glad to be able to implement to help business owners calculate their loan forgiveness amount. One big piece of information: if your loan was less than $2 million, there's no need to certify for economic uncertainty. You can take the loan, use it how you need it. There's no need to certify economic uncertainty. So that relieves, a little bit of pressure if some people are on borderline and not sure what their status is in connection with that. The beginning date of when the 8-week period will run, there's now an option. It is either as of the date of funding, the date that the loan is received by the owner of the business, or you can push it out to the next pay period. So if your pay period starts the week after or 3 weeks later, whatever that date might be, you're allowed to push the 8-week start date to that date. For payroll, it's paid or incurred. So that gives, again, a bit more flexibility to business owners. Again, I do recommend that you work with your accountant. If you don't have an accountant, feel free to sign up with the SBDC, sign up as a client, and we will connect you to an accountant who can help you figure out your payroll, paid or incurred cash flow, and make a cash flow assessment of where that's at and how it works in connection with a PPP loan that you may have received. You have 8 weeks to go back to the full-time employee number that you were at prior to February 15. Another great guideline that we saw come out that we were happy with: if you made a good faith effort to rehire employees and they've declined to go back to work, then the SBA will not make the assumption that they will give you credit for making the outreach and for trying to bring back those employees. There is going to be a reduction in the loan forgiveness amount. Not the entirety of the loan will be forgiven if you can't bring your full-time employee number as well as your aggregate payroll number back to the status it was at prior to February 15. However, with this disclaimer, if you try to hire your full-time employees back and they decline to come back, it gives you some leeway. You will not get a reduction in the total loan forgiveness amount. So that was good to see. Let's see. You can use the PPP loan to provide bonuses to employees. So that's something else that we've confirmed. So if you want to give an employee a bonus to come back to work during that 8-week period and they get a bonus for 8 weeks, that's okay. That counts as payroll. You can deduct that and it can be part of your loan forgiveness amount. So those are kind of all the big picture item at this time. No major new updates outside of what we've just gone over just now this morning. But if you need any guidance looking over this form, if you need any guidance understanding the status of your accounting system to be able to better report back to the SBA on how you spent down the loans, please feel free to connect with us, apply with us, and we will try and help you and guide you through this. That's it from me today. Thanks, Bettina.
Thanks, Judy.
Quick update. Sorry, I do have some stats that I can share. Interestingly, we have captured a lot more loan data. We're really pleased to see that we've hit pretty close to $16 million in disaster loans that have come to SLO County. So we're finally getting some good data coming in. Our businesses have done pretty well. We have about between 150 and to 175 businesses who've been able to obtain these loans for an aggregate number of about $16 million. So that's where we're at as of today. And that number is likely going to keep going up over the next couple of weeks. But those were some good results for us in SLO.
Great. Thanks, Judy. And we do have two questions that came up in the chat. The first is, does the 8 weeks to return to full staffing begin after you receive the PPP money?
Yeah, and that's where there's some flexibility. So it's either from the date you receive it, the borrower, the business owner receives the money, not the date the bank receives it, because the bank is allowed to keep it on its book for about 10 days before they transfer it on to the business owner. But once the business owner receives it, you can choose that date or the date from when payroll starts, the first payroll date.
Great. And there is some discussion about extending that through November. Is that correct? Is that what's being discussed in Congress right now?
I'm not sure. They are discussing quite a few amendments to the act. And honestly, until they're approved, until it's legislated, I'm looking at it, but there's no real point in affirming any of this until it's voted and approved. So I'm not going to confirm either way. There is another question about EIDL. And I just want to confirm it is only for ag businesses at this time. No other business can apply for EIDL at this time.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Judy, and thanks to your team for being so available. I hope that our members have been reaching out to you, and the $60 million for San Luis Obispo is definitely much appreciated. So with that, we'll see you next week, and reach out to Judy if you have any specific questions about what's going on. And let's see, let me get back to my other screen. Next up, we have Jim D'Antona with the Chamber of Commerce. Jim, are you out there?
I am.
Hello, nice to see you.
Good seeing you. Thanks for having us, as always. Just kind of love to bring everyone up to speed. We have our normal free webinars every Thursday. Last week, we had a great conversation, and it actually was a two-part from the previous week. So hope everybody's finding the reopening on the readyslo.org. The county has amazing resources there to help you figure out how to do your self-assessments, your reopening plan, how to do the checkoff list, even signage to put right on your window to let folks know that you're open and safe. I think it's so important for our customers and our employees to feel safe when they're coming in, and I think it's great for our businesses. But this week, we're actually going to have we're going to put the free webinars on hold. We actually have Kathy Epwright and Dave Youngke doing a paid workshop for employment law and all the things you should be considering on liability, looking specifically at things like establishing your plan, determining who and how to return employees to work, who and how to lay off employees, and communicating with those employees about workplace reopening. So there'll be, that is going on. We'll have that conversation this Thursday, and then we'll return back to our free webinars next Thursday. And with that, we also had last week, we brought Good Morning SLO back for its first ever virtual version. We learned some things. It was a lot of fun. It was really interesting, great topics discussing. Creative mediation was one of my favorites. She did a great conversation on how to have these difficult conversations with people about why aren't you wearing a mask, rather than attacking somebody and assuming positive intent. Was really great. So if you get a chance, maybe talk to the folks, Samantha over at Creative Mediation. We'll have clips coming out over the next week, but a really fun conversation. And Peyton Hughes closed us out with a really great kind of discussion about how to be okay with yourself, making yourself feel all right. So it was a lot of fun, and we had a blast, and we'll be bringing those back starting in June. We'll have another one, and we're going to bring it back to the fuller hour and a half, I think, with a lot more tools for people to connect as audience members. So thanks for everything you guys are doing, keeping us all going in the same direction, and hopefully we'll get through this here in the near future.
Great, thanks, Jim. It's been really great to see the Chamber offer so many activities to just anybody in the community and not just your members. So thank you for providing those resources. We really appreciate it. Okay, and up next we have a favorite topic of downtown people, and that is parking. So we're going to welcome Gavin Hussey, who is the new-ish director or manager of parking services in the city of San Luis Obispo. Gavin, are you out there?
Yes, I am. I am newish. I had a month before COVID started, so it's been a fun beginning here with the city of SLO, but we're cruising right along. Just so everyone is aware, we did start this morning enforcing the time limits in the meters, especially the 2-hour meters particularly. We are looking at just issuing warnings right now. We developed a warning slip rather than a citation that we will be placing on vehicles that stay for excessive periods of time in those metered spaces. We received a bunch of complaints last week as things are starting to get going, that people were staying for extended periods of time in those meters, and those spaces were not opening back up for the customers. So we're trying to make sure that those spaces turn over so that customers can get to the establishments they're trying to get to. So that's our primary focus this week and next week. We are enforcing safety violations, so you will see the team out there doing those things. We are not trying to be heavy-handed in sight, so they are going around and issuing primarily just warnings for overtime limits, just so people become aware that we are back out there and we are enforcing.
Gavin, we can't see you. Is there any way you could turn on your video?
Sorry, I'm trying to write 2 letters.
I just want to reiterate, there you are. Hi, Gavin. I want to reiterate what Gavin said to you business owners out there. While it is tempting to want to park right in front of your business, we really encourage you to park outside of the main downtown and leave those spaces available for your customers. Especially if you have employees who are coming back to work and they haven't been downtown in a while. Encourage them to park in the structures, maybe on the upper levels. And Gavin will talk a little bit more about what the process is for the expanded free parking in the downtown going forward.
Yep. So we actually are, we have all the gates on the parking structures down right now. When you pull into the parking structure, you're going to be able to pull up a ticket to enter, and then you'll insert the ticket upon exit. Right now, there is no charge for that ticket. So if you are coming and going at any point during the day between 12:01 a.m. and midnight, you're allowed to leave without charge. If you are staying overnight, you will be charged for that stay. It is $12.50. So we still do have our downtown overnight program active, and we are charging for residential parking. But anyone that is coming downtown, either working or as a customer, is not going to be charged. So that's the intent. We do want to make sure that staff that are coming downtown, they can park in the 10-hour meters for free right now, or in the parking structures. So we are making sure that there's space there for them. Customers will have free use of the 2-hour and 10-hour, in addition to the free parking in the structures.
Great. And we've got a question here that says, digital signs on the parking structure says shut, and it's been a bone of contention with customers coming back.
Correct. So that is over in 842. We've had 842 on Palm across from the theater closed for the last few weeks. We've been doing some restoration work in there. We are hoping to have that open by tomorrow. I know that there is some stuff going on. We're looking at doing the Mission Plaza courtyard coming up this weekend as part of Open SLO, possibly looking at Monterey too. So there will be some forward movement on that later in this week, and some communication coming out from the city regarding what our plans are for that. So we do need to have that parking structure open by that time, and our goal was to have it open this morning. Our team was a little bit behind this weekend, so they got some of the work done, but not all of it finished up. So we are hoping to complete the last couple little things today and get it open by tonight for tomorrow morning. And then beyond that, the other 2 structures, Marsh and Palm 919, do indicate free on the outside.
Okay, that's great. And we also have some questions from Erin Gomez, council member and business owner. How can we help promote this messaging? So is there like social media available to share? I know at our parking and access committee meeting last week, you had talked about doing a one sheet to hand out to businesses.
Correct. So I got that back late Friday night, and Bettina, I'll get that over to you. We'll start distributing that. Our parking officers are going to be going around, handing that out to business owners around downtown. It's just a basic handout that just kind of outlines what we're doing, what's active, what's new, and how we're there, how we're here to assist. So I'll get that over to you. If you guys can help us distribute that, that'd be excellent. And then our parking officers will be handing that out when they encounter people in town.
Great. And you're going to City Council tomorrow night as part of the budget update, correct?
Correct. Yep. So tomorrow night we are proposing the suspension of our fees. Also the suspension of the rate increase that was proposed for July 1st. So those are two major items that we need to, that we're hoping City Council will approve. I'm sure they will. So our intent is that we will not be charging for a prolonged period of time to customers coming to the downtown area. And then for a period of time, we'll also not be charging for staff coming to the downtown area.
Great. And again, I just want to reiterate to all the business owners out there that the way this is intended to help bring customers to the downtown so that your businesses can be supported by the people who are going to be spending their money. So the more that you can help to promote your staff parking outside of the main areas and you yourself parking outside the main areas to give a chance for the paying customers to park nearby, the better, and encourage parking in the structures. You've heard me say this before, but park and walk. We have wonderful parking structures, and you can even see the beautiful new mural on the Marsh Street parking arch if you park on Marsh Street.
Yeah, and to echo that, just really think about your neighbors. I think that's the biggest thing we can say here is that, well, your car might take up one space. If every person that was coming to work parked in those spots, we wouldn't have any turnover. We've seen that in a couple areas where some business owner has said, oh, well, it's just my one car. But, we have several others that are doing that, and it's parked for 8 hours or 10 hours. And then the other businesses in the area haven't been able to access those spaces. So that is difficult. We want to make sure we're being conscious of what our neighbors need too.
Yeah, great. Well, thank you, Gavin, and really appreciate your proactive efforts putting out the meter bags for the pickup zones and working to secure free parking in the downtown so that we can begin to recover from this crisis. So yep. Thank you. Okay, anything else? All right, great. Next up, we're going to call on Lee Johnson from the city of SLO. Lee, are you out there?
I am here. Can you hear me, Bettina?
Yes, good to see you and hear from you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning. A couple things that just to follow up on the protests. All in all, it went relatively well yesterday. There was some dicey moments, and that they were able to get through, and it was some of the marching was a bit of a surprise. The number of people attending was larger than anticipated. There will also be additional protests today. Potentially, there's one definitely on Thursday as well, and there may be more. At least those are the ones we know about at this point. So we are, PD is at a high state of readiness, and we're doing our best to make sure we manage those and get with the people who are having the protests and make sure they understand the guidelines and the rules and what happens if they're not followed. But all in all, relatively well over the weekend. As far as complaints and things, we have the hotline, and I think Rachel's going to put that up. That we did get a few complaints over the weekend about social distancing and people not following guidelines, but all in all, relatively small number, considering it's kind of a relatively big weekend. As far as Open SLO, which just so everyone's aware is the program to use some of the right of way, either by closing streets or Mission Plaza, or those kind of things to help expand the available seating downtown, be able to help people kind of get back downtown and be able to use it in a safe way. We're moving forward first with Mission Plaza and getting some tables and chairs out there, put out there by the city and cleaned and maintained by the city. We're trying maybe for this weekend, but it looks like that'll push back a little bit. The survey is closing today, and based on that input and everything, we'll get together a plan to start closing some streets on a temporary basis, and what the permitting and everything like that is going to be for those spaces, which we'll communicate to the business owners who would be involved. As Gavin mentioned, we have the budget update tomorrow night at council. That's a pretty big meeting. It will give us direction going forward and how we manage the next few months, and then with an update in October to move on from there. The county site was mentioned earlier, is a great resource for those businesses who are not able to open yet. You should be looking at that site, be getting ready to self-certify, do all those things. If you are open and have not self-certified, it would be a great thing to do that and post the signage in your window. We have the state site, the county. There's a state site with general info. Then there's one that has info for the counties who have been able to test to be kind of more managing their future. That gets updated pretty regularly, and sometimes that's the first place. For example, with restaurants and barbershops and salons, that was the first site to be updated. As Governor Newsom was saying that live, their site went live and the county went live about a half hour later. So paying attention to that is important. There is a reopening inquiry form on the city website. Rachel has the link up there that you can fill out anytime, and we'll answer that as quickly as possible. There's a county hotline for questions if you're not in the city. There's a city hotline that you can have business questions or report businesses who aren't following the guidelines that they should be. And then my email address is also up there, and you can feel free to email me with any questions anytime, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. That's all that I have for today.
Great. Thank you so much, Lee. I just have one question about the Open SLO surveys. I know last week there were something like 1,500 responses from the community. How many did you end up getting from both the community and the businesses?
The community one, I think, ended up over 2,000. I hadn't got the latest update this morning, and the business one was at 600 or 700 maybe Friday afternoon. So a lot of response, a lot of good comments. All in all, very well received, and we're kind of moving through that as quickly as we can.
That's great. Well, it'll be so exciting to see how that takes shape. Just on another note, I had a conversation with my cohort, my counterpart in Santa Barbara last week, and they opened State Street and have had some interesting experiences there. And this is happening all over the country. So we're kind of learning together on this new open streets concept. Great. Thank you, Lee. Okay, next up, we want to call on one of our board members, David Smith from Hotel SLO. And as you know, or you might not know this, but the hotels and lodging industry has a cap on it for 50% occupancy at this time due to the pandemic. And so we wanted to hear from David how Hotel SLO has managed the reopening, what that experience has been like, and what guests can expect, because we were really looking forward to a summer with our hotels open and bringing in tourists, and this is going to be a little bit of a different experience. So David, are you out there?
I am. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, David.
Hi, everybody. Yeah, I just basically in summary, and then I'll go through more specifics, but I promise I won't take too long. We did start slowly reopening our facilities, and we really did it with 4 focuses. The first being what we've been preparing for over the last month, and that's just making sure that opening will allow us to adhere to both the state and the local guidelines that are out there right now. We understand that those change, but we also understand that that's the best chance for creating a safe environment, which is number 2 for both our associates as well as the guests that do come to the hotel. The third was when we did open, we wanted to make sure that what experiences we were able to offer were in keeping with what we were offering prior to closing, meaning we wanted to make sure that the menu items that we could offer were the quality from a food standpoint. Of course, that facilities that we could offer, rooms, were in keeping with what a guest would expect, with some additional measures to make them feel comfortable and to allow them to maintain those standards. or the criteria that's been set forth. The fourth is probably the most problematic, and it's rehiring the team. And it's not a matter of getting people to come back to work. It's a matter of having business levels that will support the people coming to work. So that's been our biggest balancing act right now, is bringing people back. Business levels, obviously, with the 50% restrictions are lower. And our food and beverage revenues, obviously, even though we can do in-room dining, are much lower. We are blessed with lots of outdoor space. And from just an overall perception standpoint, most people, given the opportunity to dine outside, have been dining outside, which we are prepared for. We haven't had a lot of pushback from people. Some people are a little bit more willing to stick with the social distancing, but we've set things up so that we don't have to police people as much as possible. In a few instances, we've asked some people to sit at separate tables, that type of thing, which is understandable. People seem very happy to get out and see and socialize, but there are some limitations in regards to how many people we can have in a specific area. Make sure that people are 6 to 8 feet apart, and making sure that when people are dining, that again we're within the current restrictions. So thus far, so good. Like I said, with very few exceptions, most people coming here seem to, that have over at least the last week, seem to generally be pretty happy to be out and about, for lack of a better term. And of course, as far as the dining, overall, it's been a pretty good experience. Certainly not what people might have expected in February for this time of year, but still, we're trying to provide the best environment, ambiance, and safe environment that we possibly can. So the last week has been good. Like I say, as people are a little bit more bold than, as the days go on, but we're keeping our fingers crossed and doing our best to provide a service and environment where people can relax. And when necessary, very, very politely asking people to maintain what we've set forth with our dining areas. And we're asking people, for example, not to move furniture, that type of thing, and to maintain the spaces that we set forth. So, so far, so good.
Great, thank you. That's really helpful. I have a couple of questions. One is, what kind of customers are you seeing? Are they coming from specific areas of the state or people from other parts of the county? And are you seeing a mix of locals and outside visitors in your hotel dining establishments?
Yeah, the hotel rooms seem to be people coming that are here for a purpose, picking up their student children from Cal Poly, here working on a project, whatever the case may be, as well as San Francisco and LA. The dining portion, we've always been blessed with the local community supporting our dining. So most of that is local, mixed with, of course, the guests that are traveling, staying in the hotel looking for options as well. So I'd have to say mostly all California thus far, with maybe 1 or 2 exceptions. And then, of course, as far as dining and that type of thing, the evenings tend to be busier and it's more local.
Great. Thank you so much. Well, we hope it goes well. And please do have your concierges guide people to our local shops downtown so that they can spend some money downtown.
We will when they come back to work. We're still pretty light. So, but by all means, feel free to come up anytime. We're open from basically noon until about 8 o'clock during the weekday, and just a little bit longer on the weekend for food and beverage.
Great. Thank you. Well, just a few other things from our point of view. We are continuing to welcome businesses back to business with our We Got This kits. And to date, we've distributed 130 of these kits that include hand sanitizer, paper towels, face coverings, and gloves. So just a thanks to Guaranteed Rate Mortgage for sponsoring this program. We do have additional kits available. So if you would like to get one, reach out to us. You can email ambassador@downtownslo.com to get a kit, and we'll also be sending people out to welcome the businesses as they reopen to get those kits. So that's been a really nice thing to see. We were, one of our many programs that we had to put a stall on back in April was our Beautification Awards. And the Beautification Awards are a wonderful program that we've been doing in our downtown for 30 years. So this is actually the 31st annual Downtown SLO Beautification Awards. We were going to have a celebration in person in early April, but of course that wasn't allowed to happen. So instead, we are honoring the businesses that won those awards on our website. We sent out a press release on Friday and we announced the winners in social media. Some of the winners that are highlighted here are the Mayor's Award, which is the Gateway to Downtown, which is at the corner of Santa Rosa and Higuera Street with American Riviera Bank and Blue Marble Investments. We also had the Chairperson's Award, which went to Hotel SLO. So congratulations, David, to your team for the Chairperson's Award. And that was from Marshall Ohilsky, who has been the chair of the Beautification Awards for all 30 years. And then the CEO's Surprise and Delight Award, which was the award that I chose, went to the City of SLO's Promotional Coordinating Committee for the Cultural Heritage Icon flag banners and parking kiosks. And those were designed, the art director was Katie McGrath, and that was just a great project. So thank you for that great project. If you want to learn more about the more than 30 award winners, there's a map on our website at downtownslo.com. If you click on visit, you can go to the drop-down link and you can look at all of the award winners, including a map of each of those winners so that you can go visit them and see for yourself just how beautiful they were. We were really sorry not to gather in person this time because there were so many fantastic eligible projects. We had more than 40 businesses open over the 2019 year, and the 2020 Beautification Awards honor projects that were created in the 2019 calendar year. So congratulations to all of them. Rachel, you want to take over and talk a little bit about our polls from last week?
Yes, kind of given our transition, we no longer have Garrett who is hosting our meetings. So currently we don't have the capacity to continue to do polls. We may look into changing that, but just wanted to highlight 2 polls. This first one with the current employer-employee reality, we see from the May 18th polls a decline in continuing with pre-COVID staffing levels, and similarly an increase in layoffs and furloughs to greater than 50% of staff. So that's kind of again, these numbers aren't all-inclusive. They're a very small subset, but that's a trend to kind of continue to watch. And then moving to the next slide for confidence, uncertainty remains high, as I know we can all feel, but it was really encouraging to see high confidence increase. I think as we moved into stage 2, that is kind of increasing confidence for businesses to see that, we're taking, slow steps, but it is steps in the right direction. And those are the 2 highlights from our polls. And Bettina, I will turn it back over to you.
Great, thank you, Rachel. Yeah, we're sorry not to be able to continue those polls. We'll work on the technology piece of it so that hopefully we can bring those back. But we also know that those polls were really helpful when businesses were not in operation. So now that we're going back into actually being open, those might change a little bit more. So this is a screen grab from the wonderful Dear SLO video that we showed you a couple of weeks ago, thanks to the Community Roots Project for putting that forward. And just wanted to remind you that our staff has been working really hard over the last 10 weeks to work with you and make sure that you're getting all of the information that you need. Unfortunately, our organization has been affected like all others. And our organization, just for a little bit of an overview, we are funded in part by the business license fees from all of the businesses, all of you who pay into that fund. And then we take that money and we double or triple it with event fees and earned revenue. With our current reality of not being able to do events, our budget has been very dramatically affected. And so unfortunately, we're going into dramatic austerity measures going forward, effective next week. We have about a 50% reduction in our overall operating budget. And this very sadly includes a 50% reduction in our workforce. So we are saying goodbye to half of our really beloved team. And this is a very sad, unfortunate reality. We are sorry that we can't continue to be the full team of 8 full-time employees that we were prior to the COVID-19 crisis, but it just is not possible given our revenue. We are planning for how to safely resume events, and we will be taking the next few months to really evaluate all of our programs, all of our earned revenue, coming up with creative and strategic ways to try to shore up our efforts so that we can continue to advocate for all of your businesses, support downtown, and advocate for a recovered and reborn downtown after the COVID-19 crisis. So this is sad news. We will continue to serve you, but I feel it's important to share this with you now so that you can use a little bit of grace and exercise patience with us over the course of the next month as we transition down into a very scaled back version of what we currently are. We do continue to work with the International Downtown Association, the California Downtown Association, and Main Street America and the California Main Street Alliance. We know that Main Street America and Main Street programs are going to be pivotal to the revitalization of our programs. So we're really grateful to have colleagues and cohort and professional leadership who are working in this space of urban place management and small business vitalization projects. Pleased to say that Main Street America has been really shining a spotlight on some of our programs, and starting next week, they're gonna do a feature on our Mayflower initiative because they really enjoyed the incredible impact that we had in our community, bringing artists and businesses together with the more than 70 businesses that did participate in that program. So we'll continue to learn from them, share with them. And I do want to say that we're not alone in this. All organizations are suffering from these financial ramifications. And fortunately, we still have each other to try to soldier through. So at this time, we'd like to open it up for any questions that you might have. Feel free to drop those in the chat, or we also do, I believe, have the option for you to unmute yourself. I see that there's a question about the return of farmers market with PPE in place. As you know, our farmers market has been on hiatus, suspended indefinitely starting March 12th. And our farmers market manager, Whitney Cheney, has been working behind the scenes to come up with a plan for bringing the farmers market back on a scaled back, dramatically smaller version of what our farmers market is. We continue to work with the city and the county to try to figure out ways that we can do that safely. Essential farmers markets with just produce have been able to operate for the whole time, but we have not operated ours because our farmers market draws between 5,000 and 12,000 people on any given Thursday night. So while we know that we can try to do our best to create a framework where we're not inviting large crowds to gather, we really want to make sure that we're being cautious and we're putting safety first, because we don't want to suddenly bring thousands of people downtown. That's not appropriate or allowed during this time. So we're working on that, and we hope to be giving you more of an update in the coming weeks. But at this time, we don't have a specific plan ready for you. Are there any other questions out there, comments, concerns? It's hard to believe it's June. I know that sort of snuck up on us, right? We had March was the longest month, and then April lasted about 6 months, and May, it felt like, was about a year. So we're just skating through this time together with as much grace and patience as we can. It looks like there aren't any other questions at this time. I do want to just remind you, if you have questions, to reach out to me, to reach out to our staff, to reach out to our board. And thank you for supporting downtown, for being a part of our community, for honoring all of our community members, and for keeping our community safe. So I wish you a happy week, a happy June. Be well and take good care.